Hey guys, Lan here on GradysMom. I'm going to be doing a cooking video today, and this is for when I make homemade like marinara or spaghetti sauce at home. My mom has always made homemade, even more so than this recipe because she has a huge garden. So she actually grows tomatoes and then cans them and uses her homemade garden tomatoes in the sauce. But I'm doing it just like her, except I'm using the canned tomatoes to create my own sauce. Now, there's definitely no right or wrong way to make this. Everybody has a different version or variation, but this is just the best way that I have found to make it. And I find it's just much better than buying the sauce in like one of those glass jars, which I do like. And they're great for like a quick fix or if you need a little help from the store. But when I have the time, I like to make it this way. So here's everything I use. Starting on this side, you're going to need some extra virgin olive oil. You're going to need some parsley. You can use dried or fresh. This is some black pepper. This is some pink sea salt. You can just use regular table salt. And then I use the large can. Large is 28 ounce. This is the San Marzano whole peeled tomatoes. And then I use the like a tomato sauce. Any brand will do. These are just the two brands that I happen to like and grab that were on sale. You're going to need about 16 ounces or 2 cups of chicken broth. This is 32 ounces, so I'll be using half of this carton. I'm going to use some minced garlic. You can use fresh garlic, which I do prefer. I just don't have any. So I'm going to use minced garlic, some Parmesan cheese, a whole white or yellow cooking onion, and then a whole bunch of fresh basil. You can use dried basil if you don't have fresh. So that is the sauce part of it. I'm making a big pot. I'm going to freeze half of it, and then tonight we're going to have half of the sauce. I'm going to make some penne pasta, and then I'm actually going to make some ground turkey meatballs. Of course you could do beef meatballs. Of course you could skip the meat altogether, but I'm doing it with ground turkey, and I find the 85% lean ground turkey works the best. And I just do it very simple with the ground turkey, a little bit of breadcrumb, and then 1 egg, and that's all you need. It's very flavorful, and I actually cook the meatballs right in the sauce. And then I did grab some fresh Italian bread that was just baked this morning to cut up tonight with pasta. But this actual recipe is for the sauce. So let's go ahead and I'll show you guys how to make this at home. Alright guys, so the first thing you're going to want to do is get a nice large sauce pot. You're definitely going to want to use a larger one than you think you're going to need, especially if you're putting like meatballs or sausage or even chicken or something in there. So I have this preheating like on a medium high. I'm going to take my extra virgin olive oil and I'm going to go around the bottom. Remember, this is a big pot and we're making a big batch, so you need a decent amount of olive oil. I actually think I'm going to put just a little bit more. And then again, you want your heat on about medium high. So I'm just going to let this heat up for about a minute, and then I'm going to throw in my onion that's chopped up and my garlic. Okay guys, so the oil has been heating up for about a minute. I'm going to go ahead first and get my onion in. Next, I'm going to go in with 2 heaping tablespoons of garlic. If you're using fresh, you can put 2 heaping tablespoons of fresh garlic in, like that. And then you're just going to get this all into the oil. And just let this cook away for just a couple minutes. Alright guys, so about a minute's gone by. I'm going to go in now with a little bit of, help my lens to fog up, some salt and some black pepper. Okay, I'm just going to get this stirred up a little bit. And I'm just going to let it cook a couple more minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and add some more goodies. Alright guys, so the onions are just slightly translucent. So I'm going to go ahead now and add 16 ounces, again, or 2 cups of chicken broth. Then I'm going to turn the heat up to high because now we're going to go ahead and add the tomatoes and we want to bring this to a boil. So first I've got my tomato sauce. And this is going to slow cook and simmer pretty much all day, so it will thicken up. And then the meatballs are going to cook right in it. And here are my whole tomatoes, the San Marzano. And those whole tomatoes will break right up because again, this is going to simmer and slow cook all day. So I'm just going to move it around a little bit like that. I'm going to put the top on, let this come to a boil, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how I prep the basil. Okay guys, so I took the basil just off the stem. So I just have the leaf part, and I found the best way to chop this is to stack it up. Just what my grandma taught me and my mom does. So you stack up the leaves and then you roll it up as best you can. And then you just cut it in like little tiny strips like this. And by rolling it up, it helps just to cut it a little bit easier. And then it's going to fall apart and kind of fluff out. And then I just kind of move it back together. Kind of pinch it all again and roll it up the best I can. And then you're just going to cut it until it's cut really fine, like that. And then just take any big pieces. It smells so good. I love the smell of fresh basil. So now it's kind of all a little bit easier to work with, and we're gonna go ahead and add this. Okay guys, so now we are gonna add the basil, fresh basil. We are going to add about 3/4 of a can of the tomato paste, and the tomato paste will thicken this up so it's not so soupy. I'm gonna do about 3/4 of the can in there. Next I'm gonna add a good amount of dried parsley. You can use fresh too, like I mentioned. And then about 1/4 cup of Parmesan, grated Parmesan cheese, give or take. And then I'm gonna crank the heat all the way up and just kind of mix this together because that tomato paste has to kind of incorporate, because it's still in canned form, and it's got to incorporate and thicken everything up. The cheese has got to get incorporated. All the flavors just have to come together. See, these whole tomatoes here will, as it simmers, they will break down gradually. I cannot even tell you guys how good this pot smells. So now I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then once it comes to a boil, I'll give it a good stir, and then I'm going to put the top on and let it simmer on low for about an hour, and kind of stir it, watch it, and then kind of test it after an hour, see if it needs anything at all. It smells so amazing. And then in the meantime, I'm going to make the meatballs, pop those in there, but this is the sauce portion of it. Of course, like I said, the meatballs or any kind of meat is completely optional. But yeah, I'm just going to put the top on, bring it to a boil, give it a stir, let it simmer for an hour, test it, and then again, I'm going to do my meatballs right in here. I will show you that, but if you're somebody that's not interested in meatballs or meat, this is where you would stop, let it simmer for an hour, test it, let it simmer for a little bit longer. The longer you let it simmer, the more the flavors are going to intensify. And then that's how easy it is, guys. It's so good. But of course, I'll show you the final product of how I serve it and that kind of thing. But again, if you're not interested in the meat part, this is where you would stop, let it simmer, and then just enjoy it the way that you would want it. So I will be back in a little bit to show you guys the rest of the process of this. So I am just mixing up the ground turkey with a little breadcrumb and 1 egg. This is about 2 pounds. It's gonna make a good amount of meatballs, so I'm gonna freeze half and use the other half in a majority of the sauce. Alright guys, so we're about at the hour mark, and look how much it's already thickened up. The whole tomatoes have really started breaking down, and it's smelling and tasting so delicious. I actually just tried it, and I don't feel that it needs anything, but everybody's preference is different. So this would be the point where if you think it needs more salt, add more salt, or you know, if it needs more chicken broth, if you want a thinner sauce. So this is kind of when your personal preference comes into play. Right now it's about 2:30, so I'm just going to let this simmer, again, still on low, till about 3 o'clock. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw in those raw formed turkey meatballs that I made. So I'm going to throw those in at 3 and simmer those for about 90 minutes till about 4:30. And then I'll turn the pot off and let it just sit on warm, and then I'll make my pasta, because we eat dinner early on Sundays. We eat at about 5 o'clock. So I'll show you guys when I throw in the meatballs. Alright guys, so my sauce has thickened up, perfect consistency. I did forget to mention in the beginning when I showed the ingredients, you're going to want to add about a 1/4 cup of sugar if you're making the same quantity as me. It cuts the acidity of the tomato, and it gives it like a really rich taste. It actually brings out the flavors. So I added that after about an hour of it simmering, or it's perfect. I have my turkey meatballs in here simmering away. And I'm boiling some water right now for pasta for dinner. I have a huge amount. We'll have leftovers. I'll have stuff for lunch. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll type everything up down below in the description box as always. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.